when 14-year-old Pakistani girl Malala Yousafzai was attacked by a Taliban gunman on her way home from school last October. It was a shot heard around the world. The teen has since recovered her strength and is now heralded as a leader in the movement to bring education to every girl. Her message: "We won't accept violence." Friday is the 102nd International Women's Day, and women and men across the world will join their voices in unison to echo the same sentiment. We must all commit to end violence, rape and abuse. From female journalists being sexually assaulted in Egypt to politicians in the US and UK stating that only some allegations of rape are legitimate, 2012 sometimes seemed like a setback for women's rights. The gang rape and murder of a 23-year-old student in Delhi and a 17-year-old girl in South Africa have sparked a ripple of anger that has spread around the world. These are not exceptional cases, they are the tip of the iceberg. In the UK, 1 in 3 girls have experienced unwanted sexual touching at school. In South Africa, 1 in 3 men admit to having raped. Globally, 1 in 3 women will be beaten, coerced into sex or otherwise abused by an intimate partner in her lifetime. This isn't a marginal issue. We can't continue to ignore the fact that women aged 15 to 44 are more at risk from rape and domestic violence than from cancer, car accidents, war and malaria combined. In the wake of such atrocity, men and women have united to stand for equality and change. We know the support of men and boys is also an important part of the solution, that we're more powerful together. Across the globe, bells have chimed, people have converged in peaceful protest, communities have congregated online, and men and women have danced in the street in the name of change. In 2012, the power of the internet and social media gave us an opportunity to unite. This year could provide a moment to act. We stand collectively and say we won't accept violence. We can say enough is enough to violence against women and girls. We can provide better support for the survivors of abuse. We can ensure young people are educated about healthy relationships, and we can challenge sexism when we encounter it. Let's make our voices heard. Annie Lennox, activist and founder of the Equals Coalition. Elton John founder. Elton John AIDS Foundation. Anastasia Shonkar, musician and composer. Joe Wright, director. Barbara Broccoli, producer. Beverly Knight, musician. Diane Dublin, former England footballer. Caroline Lucas, MP, Green Party. Charlie Webster, presenter. Iwan Thomas, Olympian. Imela Sandy, musician. Eve Ensler, activist and author. Faye Ripley, actor. Fursky and Manish, comedians. Jem Kearney, radio presenter. Ghost poet, musician. Guy Paul, actor. Harriet Walter, actor. Helena Kennedy, barrister and broadcaster. Halima Mish, writer. Inge, musician. Joe Brand, comedian. Eddie Izzard, comedian. Joan Bakewell, author and broadcaster. Juliet Stevenson, actor. Katie Piper, activist. Yament Douglas, musician. Katie B, musician. Jenny Hughes, music producer. Keira Knightley, actor. Dominic Cooper, actor. Maradam Radio, actor. Hugh Hudson, film director. Laura Bates, campaigner. Josh Schreier, Human Heights reporter. Naomi Harris, actor. David Oyelowo, actor. Natasha Walter, writer and campaigner. Philip Sands, professor of international law. Ruth Nighy, actor. Sabrina Mahfouz, poet and playwright. Dean Atta, writer. Sam Taylor Johnson, director and artist. Terrence Taylor Johnson, actor. Mohsen Makmal, director. Sarah Brown, writer and campaigner. Stella Creasy, MP, Labour. Tessa Munn, MP, Liberal Democrats. V.B. Brown, musician. Yvette Cooper, MP, Labour. Zainab Selby, writer and activist. As we celebrate this year's International Women's Day, the UK is also preparing to appear before the UN committee tasked with monitoring the government's progress on the promises we have made under the International Law on Women's Human Rights, CEDAW. The government's engagement with CEDAW is welcome. As a state which prides itself on international human rights leadership, it is important that we step into the global spotlight and are accountable for action to guarantee basic rights here at home as well as abroad. Less heartening is what this spotlight reveals. The government's interim response to the UN committee ahead of July's full examination reveals a worrying picture which, in some instances, risks regression rather than progress for women's rights in the UK. For example, the fact that women are more likely to qualify for legal aid because they are among the poorest in our society is not a sign of progress. As Eleanor Roosevelt stated shortly after drafting the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, human rights begin in small places close to home. We applaud the government's commitment to engaging with international human rights mechanisms, but we urge them to remember that the point of human rights, including women's human rights, is that they must be made real here at home. Sanchita Hosali, Deputy Director, British Institute of Human Rights. Annie Campbell, Director, Women's Aid Federation Northern Ireland Linda Dearlow Chief Executive, Women at the Well Sarah Goddard Chief Executive, Fawcett Society Rebecca Gill Director of Policy, Campaigns and Communications, Platform 51 Carolina Goddard Director, Lab in American Women's Rights Service Lily Greena Manager, Scottish Women's Aid Andy Gregg Chief Executive, Raised on the Agenda Rachel Alford Director, Women in Prison Paul Hardy Chief Executive, Welsh Women's Aid Vivian Hayes Chief Executive, Women's Resource Centre Davina James Hammond Director, Have Project Regina Iqbal Board Members, Muslim Women's Network UK Annette Lawson Chair, National Alliance of Women's Organizations Marsha Lawson Women Acting in Today's Society Polly Neat Chief Executive, Women's Aid Shumantaroy Policy and Research Manager, IMCON Emma Scout Director, Rights of Women Deborah Singer Policy Manager, Asylum Aid, Food Banks, Soup Kitchens, Homeless Night Shelters, Debt Counseling. Nationwide the Church is engaged with those at the receiving end of the government's austerity measures. Last week the Methodist Church, the Baptist Union of Great Britain and the Church of Scotland published a report, The Lies We Tell Ourselves, Ending Comfortable Myths About Poverty. It says statistics have been manipulated and misused by politicians and media to support a comfortable but dangerous story, that the poor somehow deserve their poverty, and therefore deserve the cuts which they increasingly face. This report from the Church is focusing on UK poverty follows on from the launch of the Enough Food for Everyone Is campaign, launched by over 100 charities and faith groups in January. If there was tax justice in the world, if international companies were transparent in their business dealing, if there wasn't a massive land grab, there would be enough food in the world for everyone. In these reports and campaigns the Church is asking the right question: why are they poor? Like the Faith in the City report in the 80s, the Church is actively challenging government attacks on the poor. It is not, as Sue Musmel asserts, women are now to the left of men. It's a historic shift, March 6, that women have swung to the left because of the decline of the Church. Today the voice of women of the left is to be heard loud and clear in the Church, united with all those who long for a more just and equitable society. Read Barbara Calvert Chislehurst, Kent. So women are to the left of men, and there are more of us of voting age than men. Perhaps this is the time for a shift from politics based on conflict and aggression to politics based on compassion and collaboration. If we're to keep Earth fit for humans to live on, women and men who value cooperation over fighting need to work together to radically change the political agenda, before it is too late.